Michelle Graves, your host on The Power of Money, and I'm honored to have you as a part of my world in this coming segment. With The Power of Money, as you know, we are interested in three things. First, that you get the necessary education so that you and your family will have the information to do well in these difficult times. The second thing I'm interested in is for you to be empowered to prosper. I want only the best for you, but you can't get that if you don't have the education and then the drive to make it happen. And the final thing, and perhaps the most important thing, is that you be energized. Because life is more than a journey. Life is about living. And so I want you to learn these things and to be empowered and encouraged and energized. I'm Michelle Graves. Now here we go.
And here we go. And thank you for being a part of my audience. Today we've got an exciting guest and information, which is my big thing with all of my viewers over the years. I want to make sure that you have complete and thorough information on a variety of subjects, but today's show is particularly impactful for seniors because, believe it or not, our elderly population is having a tough time with all of the sophistication that is associated with technology and artificial intelligence and hacking and scamming. It goes on and on and on, but we do know that our elderly are disproportionately impacted because they do not have the knowledge, skills, or information to fight back. So today, as my guest, I have on Mary Day, who is the Development Director for Pro Seniors of Ohio. Mary's background is extensive, but since 1995, she has been an advocate with the Pro Senior staff, supervising the long-term care ombudsman team for over 18 years. She has also applied her advocacy and education skills to Pro Seniors Elder Exploitation, Financial Exploitation Prevention Project, which brings her to us today. With her background providing direct client advocacy, supervising advocates, and educating professionals and the public, she has a unique perspective, which you will hear on today's show, on the impact of Pro Seniors, which is throughout the state of Ohio, for so many older Ohioans. Let me just make you aware, because this show broadcasts all over the United States, beyond the state of Ohio and the boundaries, into many other areas. And just know that the information here is usable, can be applied, and they are a welcoming nonprofit organization. And they are very experienced, and you can comfortably, I think it's presumptuous, but I think I'm right in saying you can call them if you need more information. And certainly you can speak to Mary and refer this show as well. But without further ado, I'm going to get right into the crux of this show, which is elder financial exploitation, with my very special guest today, Mary Day, with Pro Seniors of Ohio. How are you, Mary, today?
Good morning, Michelle. Thank you so much for having me on your show.
I'm glad to be here.
I'm doing very well. Thank you.
Good. So give me a little background about this, because when I read it, your director gave it to me and said, look at this. And I was like, whoa. Because I'm a senior, I'm not elderly, but I am a senior, and I myself have been the victim of hacking. Can't deny it. It happened to me on my cell phone. That daggone texting. I mean, It's
so very widespread, Michelle. I think the main thing for us to know is the more we think it can't happen to us, the more vulnerable we are to being scammed. So you held in your hand your phone.
Yes.
One of the ways that you can be, your information can be compromised on your phone is through what they call a phishing email. That's with a PH for phishing.
Okay.
Or a phishing text. And what someone will do who's trying to access your information is they will send you a link to something that looks completely legitimate. And if you click on that link, it may install malware on your phone or on your other device. And that malware can do everything from accessing all your contacts to downloading viruses that corrupt your different applications on your phone, accessing your passwords and so forth. It's really dangerous because then all of our information is compromised. The other thing to know is that scammers are professional at what they do. And the person that maybe constructed that phishing email or phishing text is probably not in the United States.
Oh, boy.
So a lot of these criminals are based in other countries. And so when people complain about, oh, I'm on the do not call list, why doesn't it work? Well, because the criminals who are based in other countries don't really care about U.S. laws. It also means that it's very difficult to track them down, difficult to prosecute them, and difficult to recover any funds that might be lost.
That is, Mary, I'm telling you, that's just downright scary. Okay?
It is, but we can all protect ourselves by being really scrupulous, very careful about not acting quickly. So if you get a text on your phone or you get an email on your phone, you access your email from your phone, one of the first things you can do is, instead of responding to that text or email, look at who it says it's coming from and contact that source directly. So I know I will get texts frequently saying, there's been a problem with your account at Fifth Third Bank and you need to act immediately. Well, I don't have an account at Fifth Third Bank, Michelle, but scammers only need to send out thousands of these, which they can. Thousands of these, they only need one or two people to click on it, and they access those people's information. On me, what I can do to protect myself is, if I did have a Fifth Third account, instead of clicking on the link that says act now, what I need to do is go to my bank statement or just look up in the phone book, however we access it, and contact my bank directly and say, I received a text or I received an email that says there's a problem with my account. So that's what we can do.
So let me ask you this question, because it was told to me that don't just delete the text. Don't press stop. Don't press. No. Just go to delete and delete it.
Yeah.
Don't report. Just delete it.
Don't ever click on any of the links in that text or in that email. Don't click on any of the links.
I know they've got to be making billions of dollars.
Yeah.
I just have to know, because as smart as I was and thought I was, it's a very humbling experience to find yourself in that kind of a situation. And I deliberately have an iPhone because I was told years ago that Apple has state-of-the-art technology to prevent this type of thing. Well, I'm here to tell you it's not working.
Right.
Because they are able to get through. And the text is so easy to get to as opposed to email.
Right.
I just don't even look at it.
And the thing is, Michelle, if you think about it, and this is what happens with most of the scams, scammers try to get us excited or scared. When they can raise our level of emotion, our clear thinking goes out the window. And so that's what we need to watch for. So if that text said it was from your bank and said you needed to act immediately, right away you can feel your heart racing.
Right.
You can say, oh, I need to do something immediately. Sometimes those scams look like someone who's calling you, and maybe they're calling saying they're your grandchild or your nephew, and they say, this is Sheriff so-and-so, and I've got your nephew here. And the caller might say, oh, you mean, is that Jimmy? Because maybe I only have one nephew. Okay, they might call me. I don't have a nephew, but they only need to make this work 1 or 2 times. And the next thing they do is, well, Jimmy's in trouble here, ma'am. Jimmy's in trouble, and he's asked me to call you to get an attorney, and we can get a bail bondsman here for him right now.
Oh my
and it's going to cost
God.
X amount, and we need you to wire money. So what's your heart doing right now? Your
Your
heart's going
heart
boom,
is
boom,
like boom, boom, boom. Right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah,
Because the
And
family
so-
is everything.
right. Family is everything. Our critical thinking goes out the window because you're just in fear for this nephew.
Right.
And that is how the scammers work. Another way they try is to get you excited. You are the winner. You've been selected. All you need to do is click here. Now all you need to do is wire some money to pay these taxes, and we'll send you your winnings. Clear thinking out the window.
Right. Because you see money or the
Well,
possibility.
and it's urgent. Like, you must
Right.
act now.
Right.
You must act now.
Right.
And, I've seen videos, the other good resources. If you go on YouTube and say, look for scammer videos, you'll see scammers actually talk about, well, they're greedy. You know what, Michelle? Every person I've talked to who's been scammed, they were not greedy people. One woman said, I wanted to be able to help my church replace their roof.
Right. Right.
Someone else said, another senior said, well, I've always been the auntie who gave that extra gift that maybe others couldn't afford. And now I'm retired. I don't have the resources to do that. So when I heard that I'd won, I thought, oh, I can be that auntie again.
Right. Right.
None of these people who've been scammed are greedy people.
It is so troubling because
It is.
I read some data, and I'm sure you already know, the FBI talked about the billions, not millions, billions of dollars that are leaving the United States, going into these cartels, these hacker groups, and they're coming from the bank accounts of so many elderly because they can't fight. They don't know how to fight. What
Well,
are you?
and the best defense is a good offense. So just like we talked about, don't click a link, even if it looks like it's coming from your bank.
Yeah.
Don't click the link.
Well, I
Call
know
your
with
bank.
my bank, they put everything has to be in writing. There's no way I'm going to respond. And I say this to seniors, but so much has been happening. I can be open now because it's been settled. But, they'd even broken into post office boxes.
They have.
My dad, we got the money back, but lawsuits were being threatened. The U.S. Post Office.
The U.S. Post Office. They say
his-
now, don't use the blue boxes.
No,
mailboxes.
don't use the boxes. So I
Don't
can
put
tell.
don't put that check out in the mail and put the flag up.
Oh,
If
no.
that's just an alert that says there's a check in the mail. Take your mail to the post office.
Yeah,
Pay your
inside.
bills online.
Inside. He
Yes.
lost over $36,000. They altered his check to pay
Yeah.
he was sending a monthly payment for his Cincinnati Enquirer newspaper,
Okay.
$36, and they
Right.
altered the check to $36,000, and
Yep.
then his bank accepted that altered check, which is a violation of law in terms of comptroller of currency. But he didn't know that. He didn't even know it had
Right.
happened until he got a call from the banker that said, did you do a $36,000? He's 93 years old.
Yeah.
The stress, and then
Absolutely.
I
Yeah.
mean, just
And
it was
Michelle, so what I would say that's good about that is banks are trying to stay on top of this from the perspective of they are looking for unusual activity.
they
Another
should.
thing that we can do to safeguard our accounts is talk to your bank and say, look, if you see something unusual on my account and you can't reach me, here is another person who you can contact to tell them that there's something strange going on with my account. So that's a great safeguard, because say that your dad has you on that account, say that, he's on vacation or he's not answering his phone, they can still notify you. And that's important because sometimes scammers are so devious, they will talk to and coach someone who they're scamming right up to the point of, okay, when you walk in the bank, you're going to tell them that you want this home equity loan for replacement windows. Now, if you know that your dad lives in a retirement home and he's not replacing windows,
Right.
you're going to know that that's still fishy. This scammer waited outside the bank for this customer.
I'm sure they did.
Yeah. And like
Right.
you said, it really is like organized crime. So the scammer that is maybe interacting with the older adult is not the person in Romania, wherever, Ukraine or Asia. That's someone local who they have conned into participating.
Right.
Sometimes they don't know just how big that scam is.
Well-
There's even an element of human trafficking involved in some of these scams.
Oh my God.
And it's really scary. Some of these scammers are actually being held hostage themselves, like indentured servants, where they have gone to a country thinking that they're going to get gainful employment. And in fact, their passport is held and they are forced to continue this scam, calling people and scamming them until they meet a threshold and they can be released, which of course is never.
Never. Can you, just for clarification, because we dove right into the subject, can you give me a definition of what is elder financial exploitation? What is it?
Sure. So elder financial exploitation is really any misuse of an individual's fund, of a senior's fund. So that can be through theft, through deception, through undue influence. It's basically misusing that person's resources and not having permission to use them the way you're using them.
So that
could be I'm going to pay my own rent with Dad's Social Security check. Well, do you have Dad's permission to do that? And what expenses can Dad not pay now because you're using his check? That's financial exploitation.
So let me ask you this question, because when you start getting into family and grandkids and children and the abuse that so many elderly are under, Mary, as we speak, I'm telling you, as an advisor, and I deal with seniors, have for years, but this predatory behavior by their family members is not new.
No.
But what is new is the fact that nobody feels guilty about it.
Right.
They don't, it's like, well, they couldn't pay me, so I just took it. Well,
Right.
and the senior will not prosecute that child.
Right. So, Michelle, that relationship is so powerful, and it's what all of us want. We want belonging. We want that relationship with this person, and what can start out as a healthy relationship can turn into an unhealthy relationship. I think one of the things that we can all do is set good boundaries and also get to know other resources. So if Joey is asking for money every time he comes over to visit,
Yep.
delve deeper. Joey, what do you need the money for? well, my car keeps breaking down. Let's hook you up with someone who can help you with that. If you don't know a resource to help Joey, you can call United Way. In most communities, call 211, and you can get their like resource line and ask them, who helps with car repair? You know, really connecting with what are the community resources. So in Ohio, you can call Pro Seniors and that senior could say, can I get a phone appointment with a helpline attorney? And just to talk me through, how do I navigate this situation? It's a confidential call, Michelle. We're not going to do something without their permission. And we don't handle criminal matters. So, but we can advise them on, here are your options. Here are some other things you could do, but get to know the other resources. So when Joey comes to you needing money, Joey, let's talk about this. You've got this great job. Let's figure this out because I want you to have a reliable car. Let's see what else we could do. And also be upfront. I need to pay my bills, Joey. I can't give you the money this month. Let's figure out another way. Something else that people can do is choose to have someone else handle their money. They can do that within a family if you have someone you trust, or just take it outside the family because then you don't get into those family dynamics. You can choose to set up a lot of your bill pay online so that you don't have to deal with writing out the check, so there's no missing check from your checkbook that somebody has walked off with. There's a lot of remedies that you can put in place in advance so that you take money out of that relationship. And I know people like to give. So if Joey's coming over and you know, Grandma wants to give Joey something, or I want to give my niece something, what else could I give? I can give my time. Hey, you know, my niece's name is Megan. Hey, Megan, why don't we bake a cake together? Let's bake a cake together, or let's make dinner, or invite some of your friends. Let's make dinner together for your friends. You know, find other ways of giving that are not about money.
You know, you bring that's an excellent point. If I might give a personal experience, and I know this is a deep thing, but it did happen, and the party, my great uncle has now transitioned. He's not alive, but this actually happened, Mary. And that's when I began to say, whoa, wait a minute. This is really kind of scary. But I was his POA, and he was elderly, and I handled his finances and all the above. He was a very sharp man, but he was very family. And I made a comment on one of the bills that I paid, like, you know, this really is not appropriate. And he got very angry at me he said, well, you're just supposed to pay the bills. You're not supposed to give a commentary. And I said, no, but this person's name keeps coming up. Is she providing a service? I mean, it got very, very difficult. Yeah. Bottom line, he amended his POA and put his granddaughter, not by birth or blood, but by marriage, as his POA. And you know what she did? She refinanced his house.
It happened.
And she did a line of credit, refinanced, took money out, and bought herself a car. Oh. And Mary, how did I know? Because I was told the house was going to foreclosure.
Yeah.
She did the refinance, but never paid a dime. And I immediately interjected. He didn't want to say a word. And I was like, you're getting ready to be homeless.
Yeah.
And long story short, we were able to work something out with the bank because that was fraud. But actually, it wasn't, because she was his legitimate POA, which gives her access to everything, including his property.
Right.
And we it's so messy and so unpleasant.
It is.
I just said, I'm going crazy.
And it happens, Michelle, it happens a lot. And
Does it?
So I'm a senior too. I turned 60 last year.
Okay.
And so now I'm eligible to call the legal helpline because I live in
Okay.
Ohio and I'm
Okay.
60. So, but I have to think about all this differently too. What are the safeguards I need to put in place now so that can't happen to me? Because by all rights, when my niece turns 18, if I would appoint her to be my power of attorney, she could do that for me. She could do that. And, that relationship is so important. So one of the other things that we talk to older adults like me about is avoid isolation. So when you have one key person in your life and that person exerts undue influence, like his granddaughter did,
Yes.
that person has so much power to manipulate the older adult because there's so much value placed in that relationship. So what are the other relationships that you're maintaining? And if someone ever feels shame or they feel secretive about something, that's an indicator to me that if I'm feeling shameful about giving money to so-and-so or signing over my power of attorney, that's an indicator to me, that's a red flag.
To me,
That something's not right if I feel like I need to keep it a secret.
I'm telling you, the bank was so accommodating because legally they were not out of order.
Right?
They followed guidelines, and they did, in fact, give her a very large sum of money,
Yeah.
period. And when I got involved, I said, 2 things are going to happen today, Uncle. One of them being that we are going to remove her as your POA. I don't want to be your POA. Maybe Mom will want to do it or somebody. I said, that's the first thing we're going to do, and we're going to give the bank the new document. And the second thing is that car that she used the money to purchase. I said, that car is going back to the car dealer because it was fraudulently conveyed. And I need you to know that did happen. The car was repossessed. While she was at work, the car left. And the POA was amended. And the final thing was prosecution, which is a fraud has been committed, and we need to go on and involve the law enforcement. Well, he was absolutely not gonna have that. He said, oh, the embarrassment of her having to lose her car, and all the embarrassment. And I was like, she's a criminal. No.
And sometimes, Michelle, when people won't report for their own benefit, I think we need to know that it's important to report that because she will do that again.
I believe
there will be another victim who maybe does not have someone to help them resolve the issue. And so while you might be embarrassed about that happened to me and I let that happen to me, okay, but don't let that happen to someone else. Make sure that gets reported. And in the state of Ohio, if you're age 60 or over, you can call Pro Seniors and find out what your options are. We don't handle criminal matters, but you can get a phone appointment with one of our helpline attorneys to talk you through what are my options, what's going to happen here, what are my next steps I need to take. And the helpline attorney will help you develop a plan. Like, what are the next things I can do? And one of the things we talked about is stop the bleeding. So like you talked about, he changed the power of attorney. That's the first thing they can do so that she can't continue to do other transactions using his power of attorney to do that, to access his resources.
I'll tell you, Mary, that was an awakening for me. And I say that's because I've gone through all kinds of certifications and training on what I thought elderly people experienced. And I thought elder abuse, physical abuse, the triage, all that. I went through that many years ago, but it is now, in my estimation, epidemic.
Yes, it is. It's called the crime of the 21st century. Because when you look, Michelle, where is the money?
Yeah.
The money is in the hands of people who are in their retirement years because they've saved all their lives. They maybe own their home now, free and clear. So criminals are going to go after older adults because maybe they have the time on their hands to pick up the phone if it's ringing. Now, you and I, we're pretty busy. We may not pick up every person who calls because we've got somebody on the other line, or we're in
Correct.
the middle of something else that we're doing. Older adults, like I said, avoid isolation. So an older adult who's sitting at home and has a lot of time on their hands is more likely to pick up that phone, more likely to talk to a scammer who may be very savvy and friendly at the outset, but that quickly turns aggressive and threatening when they stop getting the money that they want. Some older adults, Michelle, are even conned into being what they call a money mule, where a scammer who can't get any more money from that older adult then uses that person to transport money from a scammer to another victim, to another victim, to another victim, to a scammer to keep to hide that money trail.
Jeez.
So anytime we're asked to keep an interaction secret or to do something urgently, any interaction with a family member that's like, don't tell anybody that you gave me this money, or don't tell anybody that you changed your power of attorney. It's hard, Michelle, because we need to set good boundaries to begin with.
Correct.
And when you think about, especially when they're kids growing up, we don't think about them as being a threat to us, but what are the boundaries that we're setting now that are going to keep us safe in the future, and have good boundaries with that person as they're growing up?
You bring up an excellent point, because grandparents get involved with their grandkids. My grandkids have
And that's
changed.
a wonderful thing.
It is. But you know what? As I was talking with my sister yesterday, I said to her, there's always going to be one that's a thief, and you want to stay away. You don't want to entertain phone calls, chit chat, because you know that person has a disconnect in their brain around moral consciousness and
Yes.
accountability,
Yes.
that they will get you. And unfortunately, with these types of activities, if you're not willing to prosecute, and it's harsh, but it's the law, if you're not willing to prosecute that person, then that's money gone.
Right.
It may be gone anyway, but
Yeah.
at least with the Internal Revenue Service, if you file, if you have gone through the criminal process, you're allowed to write that money off as a loss.
Yeah.
But their whole thing is, oh, but they will never speak to me again. And my position is, thank God.
Yeah. Well, and that's where it's important to keep other relationships, isn't it, Michelle? With your faith community, with, if there are senior activity programs available, Neighborhood Watch. There are a lot of other ways to have connections. Maybe there's a neighbor kid on your street who becomes your adopted grandchild, because that's a safe relationship and you've established good boundaries with them. There's other ways to give our love besides indulging someone who's taking advantage of us. And we can recognize the grief and the hurt that comes with putting space between that person and yourself. But we've got to put a stop to it, because they're not going to.
I couldn't agree with you more, and certainly from my perspective, it's just outrageous, and it is out of control. And you bring up an excellent point with regard to the issue of isolation, because so many seniors are living alone and are not interested in going into group assisted living environments, but they love their homes, they love their independence, but they're alone. And my position is, if you're alone, you're probably vulnerable. So if you don't have family members that check in on you and talk to you or converse with you, even by phone, then you're going to have to reach out. And I'll
Yeah.
tell you, it's easier for women than men,
Yeah.
because men don't seem to want to do that, Mary.
You know, there's a program through the Ohio Department of Aging called, it's something to do with Connect Me, and it's a free program, and they will call and check on you. And just
Oh,
to get that phone call, just to make sure that you haven't fallen and you're needing help, or you're just feeling lonely that day and you really need someone to talk to. It's on the Ohio Department of Aging's website. If you look for connections, it's a toll-free number, and you can sign up by phone, and you'll get a phone call every day. And so it's one way to connect that's a low investment. You know, you don't
oh,
have
I'm
to.
going to do that for my
Yeah.
dad. I'm going to do
Yeah.
that. I didn't know
Um,
that.
So, and just be that connection for someone else. So
Jeez.
if you think about me, so my aunt just passed in March. And up until I would say like 5 years ago, she would get together every month, Michelle, with people she went to elementary school with.
Wow.
And I know her
Wow.
daughter would take her, and her daughter's going to be 75 this week, but her
Okay.
daughter would take her to these breakfasts. And up until my aunt stopped driving, she was the one who would pick these folks up. Some
Oh
of
my
them.
goodness.
They'll pick them up from a rest home, a retirement home, retirement community, take them to the breakfast, and they would just reminisce and talk about, fond memories. And so she was the connector in that sense. And she was not a joiner on the whole. She didn't want to go to the senior center. She was never, her family was everything. And, but so we can be the connector. Sometimes we're not so good about being on the receiving end of things, but what if your dad wants to be the one who calls, a classmate from high school or something and just checks in on him?
Well, he's
we're much better at.
93. I think most of his friends are gone.
So
But I
maybe,
hear what you're saying.
Maybe it's a neighbor he checks
Yes,
on, or maybe
yes.
it's you he checks on.
Yes.
We're much better at giving than we are at receiving sometimes.
You know,
And
you're
so-
right, because he does call me randomly. And when I
Yeah.
see the phone, I go into panic, like, oh my God.
What's wrong?
What's wrong? Did he fall? Did he? And he said, I'm just checking on you because you're always busy. I said,
Yes.
that's my DNA. I can't do anything
Yeah,
about it.
yeah.
I'm older, but I'm still busy. But it's still,
Absolutely.
I think he does it to connect with me as well.
Yeah.
Because he needs to be, more in touch, and he leads
Yeah.
a very isolated life now. I'm just being open with you.
Yeah.
He is no longer a trustee at his church, and why? Because he's 93, but he's
Right.
sharp as a sharp. But when I look at the data and the statistics, it seems to me that getting old in this country is a liability. It's more than just physical. But
Right.
now you have to deal with the mental stress of all this other random stuff.
So
What do
here's
you-
the deal, Michelle.
Okay.
Attitude is everything.
Okay.
Attitude is everything. It always has been, right?
Yes.
So the perspective we choose impacts how we experience things. So while, yes, there are a lot of threats, there are also a lot of opportunities.
Okay.
So, yes. So your dad's sharp, right? If he knows that you've been scammed, he can caution other people by sharing your story with people he knows.
Aha.
Because when we share our stories about how these things happen, we provide a safeguard to others. So they recognize that type of scam when it comes up.
Well, do
And-
you feel comfortable? I don't mean to interrupt, but I would like for you to share with my viewers actual case studies that you have, and you've got a long history, so you've seen a lot. And I would like for you to share just some of the things and how people dealt
Sure.
with that.
So I've actually had a scammer on the phone I was sitting at the dining room table of a senior who'd been scammed by an overseas scammer. We were sitting in her niece's home, and she was one of the people who said, I was the auntie who was always able to give that extra graduation present or send a grandkid or a niece or nephew on a trip. And I wanted to be that again. So when this person told me I'd won the lottery, I just kept paying the fees. So what we were able to do is she agreed to make her niece her power of attorney. She was willing to change her phone number on her cell phone. She was willing to put a lock on her credit report so that no one could apply for credit using her name and her social security number, because all those had been compromised. And she let her niece take a more active role in handling her finances. But there was no way to recover the funds that had been lost because this was an overseas scammer. So
How
she
much was
reported it to
lost?
the Federal Trade Commission,
Ugh.
and they keep track of that. But very few dollars can be recovered in those overseas scams because we don't have the cooperation of every overseas government to prosecute.
And the
on
banks
the other
aren't going to
hand,
touch it.
right. And the thing that she said that I thought was really, showed some great insight is she said, it feels like a gambling addiction. She said, I've already committed so many funds to this. I feel like I just need to do a little more and then I can win.
Oh boy,
And
that's
she said it really
definitely
feels like a
gambling.
gambling addiction. And the hardest thing for her to do, Michelle, was to give up her phone number.
Oh,
To stop using that phone number because she was very connected with friends. She had retired from a major corporation. She had kept in touch with all these folks. So that was really hard for her to relinquish that phone number and start over and then reconnect with folks. Another woman I had mentioned contacted us, unfortunately, after $20,000 was gone. The scammer talked her into walking into the bank and saying that she needed a home equity loan for $20,000 to repair her or to replace her windows. Now, she couldn't afford to pay that back.
oh
But the
my
scammers
God.
are very persuasive. You'll see other stories, Michelle, of sweetheart scammers. So, social media is another way that sometimes we reduce our isolation because it's real easy to get online and get on Facebook or other social media. And maybe we get to see family members or friends from childhood who live way across the country. And it can be a really fun way to connect. It can also be a way for someone to talk us into making really bad decisions. And a lot of those scammers won't come out and say, can you send me money? They'll say, my granddaughter needs to have this major surgery, and I sure wish I could afford to help her.
Oh wow.
Never asked for money,
Okay.
but that person who got scammed sent money, wired money out of the country. Well, my granddaughter, she lives in Haiti,
Oh.
and I
God.
can't help her. I don't have the resources to help her. Or I have a construction company, and all of my money is tied up in construction supplies, and they won't release them until I pay the duty on those.
Right.
I want to come and visit you. I love you dearly. I want to come visit you. I want to come see you, but I can't do that until they release these, and I need to save up more money before I can do that. Didn't ask for money.
You know what I find interesting, and I think this is cultural conditioning, Mary. We as a nation are givers. We we donate to charities, missionaries.
Yes,
I
we're generous.
do.
Yes.
Feed America, you do these things because the videos are heart pulling of
Right.
hungry children and gee, Monique, don't listen to the non-traditional television stations. Don't go on to Grit and Scripps and everybody. Oh my
I
gosh.
can't even watch them.
You are going to
Disturbing.
be inundated with everything. And it's hard to say.
So what I recommend, Michelle, is choose the issues that are important to you and designate your money at the beginning of the year. How much money am I going to contribute this year, and where am I going to contribute that? Now, of course, I work for Pro Seniors, and I'm the development director, so I send out appeals asking
Right.
for people to contribute to help our services continue.
Right.
But make sure you know the nonprofit that you're giving to. And if that's an issue that you feel strongly about, then by all means, and make sure it's within your means to contribute that.
Right.
And when you see that ad come on TV that's pulling at your heartstrings, change the channel. Change the channel. You have already made your decision. You know who you're contributing to. You're still generous. You're just not random.
Well, this brings up another issue which I know you can share with our viewers, and that has to deal with the issue of people that have cognitive challenges and memory issues or other disabling conditions which make them do things that they would not normally do,
Right.
including writing those checks to all these organizations. They're not being scammed. The organizations are legitimate, the solicitations are legitimate, but the person is not well.
Right. And sometimes the person doesn't recognize that they already wrote a check this month to that same charity. So, if you're the person who is interacting with that individual, you might try to help them redirect to, any check that you want to write to a nonprofit, let's put it here first, and then we'll go through those together before that goes in the mail. Just put some stopgaps in place, and then let's look at what you've already given, and is that what you wanted to give this year? And let's make
Okay.
sure you can pay your bills first. Actually, a lot of folks who are my age and older, we may have more safeguards because we go in and bank in person. That's a
Right.
great safeguard because the banks are actually expected to watch for unusual activity.
Yep.
So for someone who's always sent one check a month to a particular charity, when they start sending 10 checks a month,
Yep.
that's going to be a red flag for them because they're going to watch for unusual activity.
And they should, because that to
Yeah.
me is a sign. It's
Right.
not
And
it's
we
not a good sign.
So as disturbing as all this is, I think it's important that we choose our perspective. We look at the opportunities to stop this, including telling our stories that have happened. And then also that we look at who our allies are. So Michelle, you're an ally to help people recognize and avoid financial exploitation and scams. Your bank is an ally to help you do that as well. Those are hugely important. Your faith community is an ally. So even though your dad maybe isn't in a leadership role, his faith community is still really an important part of his life.
Oh yeah,
They are allies.
I agree. I absolutely agree. I'm just, I guess I'm looking at specific strategies, and you've given us some good ones. Would you just kind of, for those who are just joining us, we're talking about elder financial exploitation in the United States of America, which is epidemic. And that has to deal with someone stealing money, selling or trading property, keeping money and property away from an older person, or using the senior's bank account and credit cards for their gain, is committing elder financial exploitation. And my guest is Mary Day, who is development manager with Pro Seniors, which is a Ohio nonprofit that specializes in issues that face our seniors. They have a long, long history. I've known them, sent people to them, extraordinary organization with amazing people. And I just think this is so appropriate to talk about this subject now because this is what they are pushing. So Mary, can you give them, in the time we have left, let's summarize steps that you need to take now to protect
Absolutely.
yourself, and then give us
Right.
some phone numbers and websites.
Great. So, Michelle, I'd like to share my screen to show some of the tips that we've talked about.
Okay.
These tips are available on ProSeniors website, which is the word ProSeniors all together, .org.
Okay. So can we
Okay.
have you to share that?
Yes.
Okay. See if we can get
Okay.
that. Okay. It looks
So
like.
on our website, if you go to the little tab at the top that says resources, there's our fact sheet that we've been talking about, elder financial exploitation, and this can be printed right here from the website. These are some things to watch for. Just as you mentioned, some of the risk factors, such as the social isolation and some of the warning signs. And then on the second page, it's tips to avoid financial exploitation. So preparing legal documents like powers of attorney, to designate a trusted, reliable person who will follow your health and your financial wishes, keeping strong connections with friends or neighbors to avoid isolation, keeping our personal and financial information out of sight of guests and caregivers. So if you have a paid caregiver coming into the home, don't leave your personal papers out. Make sure those are secured. We need caregivers in our homes sometimes. We also need to keep our private information private. Tell our bank what trusted person they can notify of unusual activity on our account. Don't share our financial or our insurance information with callers. The IRS is never going to call you. Social Security, never going to call you. Medicare will not call you. They already have our information, but there will be people who call us and are imposters, and they pretend to be from these official agencies, or they pretend to be from Amazon. Amazon's not going to call you. Notify financial institution or medical provider of any suspicious activity on your statement. So your Medicare summary notice, Medicare fraud is another major area of fraud, and we can protect our Medicare system by making sure we're checking our statements and reporting to Ohio Senior Medicare Patrol if we suspect strange activity on that statement. And all this contact information is on the fact sheet. In Ohio, if you live in Ohio and you're 60 or over, you can call our toll-free number, 1-800-488-6070, or local 345-4160. These are some other good resources. Your local police department, if you suspect a crime. The Ohio Attorney General's office is a wonderful resource. Adult Protective Services. I want to say just a minute about Adult Protective Services. Sometimes someone who's living alone may be threatened by someone who's using undue influence. I'm going to call Adult Protective Services and you're going to go into a nursing home. Well, Adult Protective Services is not going to remove us from our home. Adult Protective Services is going to help us connect with resources to keep us safe at home. And as long as you understand the risks that you're taking with your decisions, you have the right to continue to make poor decisions even after we're 60, Michelle. If we make some poor decisions now, we may make some poor decisions as we get older. We have a right to make those decisions as long as we understand the risk. Ohio's long-term care ombudsman program. Sometimes fraud and financial exploitation can occur when someone is living in a long-term care community. And then Ohio Senior Medicare Patrol, I mentioned before. Take a look at your Medicare summary notices, your explanation of benefit. Do you see something that's on there that you did not have that test or you did not receive that device? Or is someone contacting you trying to sell you something and saying that it's free if you give me your Medicare number? None of that is appropriate. Any device that you need would be prescribed by your physician, not by a marketing company or a broker who's going to call you. So all that information is available on our website. We also have something we call Legal Toolkit, which includes our advanced directives like healthcare power of attorney and living will, and our financial power of attorney toolkit. So these tools are available at proseniors.org, and I hope that you'll use those resources.
Well, I thank you for sharing that information. Again, for those of you that are just tuning in and want to be able to reach out with questions, you can always visit them at www.proseniors, no space, .org, or you can call their 800 number at 800-488-6070. Pro Seniors is based in Ohio, providing services to Ohioans. However, if you are watching this from another state or area of the country, please avail that information. You may have those kinds of services available in your own community, and I still say knowledge is information and information is powerful. So it's up to you to do the things that are necessary. As I've said over this last session, 3 things. You want to be aware. Okay, that's the first thing. You want to be aware. The second thing is you want to be alert, which is what Mary's role is today, to talk about financial exploitation of seniors, which is epidemic. And thirdly, you must be alert. And you can't do these things if you just want to sit in front of the TV all day and watch cowboy movies or old comedies. And I love Lucy too, don't get it twisted. I love Lucy and I love the Three Stooges, all that. But this is real time. This is actually happening and you need to be alert. You have a phone, which means they can come into your privacy, whether you have a landline or you have a cell phone. You have people that are not your friends, and they can be family as well. But again, you want to be awake, you want to be aware, and you want to be alert. The 3 A's, that's what I'm pushing for this year. So Mary, do we have any additional comments? Because time is wrapping up.
I just thank you for the opportunity. I would say that when you're awake, aware, and alert, you are empowered.
Yes.
So we can all be empowered, and we have to choose to be active in creating a safe space for all of us and taking those safeguards and sharing our stories, Michelle, because when we share our stories, we protect others and ourselves.
I am so appreciative of your willingness to be a part of this conversation and being a guest today on behalf of a phenomenal organization, and to alert our seniors, because again, the technology today is so fast moving.
Yeah.
And many of these telephone calls that are being made, I'm now discovering, are not even being made by humans. They're AI, they're robots programmed to just call thousands and thousands and thousands of people, Mary. And you are right. If they hit 2 and they have called 1,000, the 2 they hit can create a major problem. Problem.
So
and
we're
their
the only
lives
ones
can
who
be
can
destroyed.
stop it.
Yes. So I appreciate your time today and what we've talked about, and I wish you and your organization only the very, very best in pursuing this issue. I don't know at this time in history if we can pass legislation that will protect seniors, because everything is so fast moving.
Right.
But I think again, back to that: awake, aware, and alert. Don't be asleep.
Empowered.
Be empowered.
Absolutely.
Be empowered. Thank
Take
you so
action.
much, Mary. Have a great day. We'll talk
You
soon.
too.
You be blessed.
Thank you so much, Michelle.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.